A 2-year-old boy was found clinging to his mother's body on Wimbledon Common, covered in her blood, begging her to wake up. That image, that single unbearable image, launched one of the most controversial and legally disastrous investigations in British criminal history. And here is the thing nobody wants to say out loud. The police were so convinced they had found their killer that they built an entire covert operation around manufacturing a confession. They were wrong, and while they were wrong, a real monster kept killing. It was the 15th of July, 1992, a Wednesday morning. Rachel Nickell, 23 years old, was walking her dog on Wimbledon Common with her son Alex. She was stabbed 49 times. 49, her throat was cut. Alex was found beside her, physically unharmed, holding her hand. The attack was frenzied, intimate. The forensic profile suggested someone with a severe sexual psychopathy. Within weeks, Metropolitan Police detectives had a suspect, Colin Stagg, a quiet, socially awkward man who walked his dog on the same common. He had no criminal record, no forensic evidence connected him to the scene, none. But here's where it gets interesting. Rather than follow the evidence, police commissioned criminal psychologist Paul Britton to construct a psychological profile of the killer. Britton concluded the murderer would have specific deviant sexual fantasies. And then, and this is the part nobody talks about, they designed an undercover operation intended to draw a confession from Stagg. A judge would later describe it as an abusive process. A female police officer, known only as Lizzie James, was deployed to seduce Stagg over months of written correspondence and meetings. She was instructed to suggest she had been involved in occult rituals and sexual violence, and to imply that only a man who shared those urges could truly connect with her. Stagg never confessed to the murder. He never claimed to have harmed Rachel Nickell. What he did do was engage in increasingly explicit fantasy letters because he believed he was falling in love with a real woman. That detail changes everything. In September 1994, Stagg was charged with Rachel's murder almost entirely on the basis of that undercover correspondence. He had spent over a year in custody. And then in the courtroom, Judge Richard Ognall stopped the case dead. He described the undercover operation as an attempt to incriminate a suspect by positive and deceptive conduct of the grossest kind, a condemnation that effectively ended the prosecution before the defense had called a single witness. Colin Stagg walked free, but the damage was done. The real killer was still out there. His name was Robert Napper. Napper was already known to police. In 1992, the same year Rachel was killed, a woman reported to the Metropolitan Police that Napper had confessed to a rape. According to the subsequent IPCC investigation, that report was not properly followed up. It was a failure that the official inquiry later documented in detail. Napper had also been arrested in connection with the Green Chain Walk rapes, a series of violent sexual attacks across South London. His name and physical evidence had appeared in connection with that series, details that, had they been acted upon, might have put him in police custody long before Rachel Nickell was murdered. His name had appeared on their own intelligence systems. And still, nothing. In November 1993, 16 months after Rachel Nickell's murder, Napper broke into a flat in Plumstead. He killed Samantha Bissett and her 4-year-old daughter Jasmine. The violence was almost identical in character to Rachel's murder. The forensic signature matched. Napper was arrested for those murders in 1994. He was convicted and sent to Broadmoor, but it took over a decade before his DNA was finally matched to the Rachel Nickell crime scene. In 2008, Robert Napper pleaded guilty to Rachel's manslaughter on grounds of diminished responsibility. He was given an indefinite sentence, already serving life at Broadmoor. Remember what I said at the start, a toddler clinging to his mother's body, begging her to wake up. Alex Nickell grew up without her. He gave a victim impact statement in 2008 that described the lifelong weight of that morning. Colin Stagg received a compensation payment reported by the BBC at the time as being in the region of £706,000. It was framed as a gesture of goodwill, not an admission of wrongdoing. The Metropolitan Police, Paul Britton, and the Crown Prosecution Service all faced severe criticism in multiple independent reviews. The Law Commission later used the Nickell case as a foundational example in debates about the regulation of undercover policing. The facts of this case are not in dispute. A man was falsely targeted. A real killer was missed, twice, perhaps more. A woman is dead. A child lost his mother on a summer morning while a system that was supposed to protect them both looked the other way. Every answer has now been given. Napper is confined. Stagg was exonerated. The inquiry reports were written. But one question remains that no official document has ever fully answered. If Napper's name was already on Metropolitan Police intelligence files in 1992, if they had his footprint, if they had received a direct report linking him to violent sexual crime, why was Colin Stagg ever a suspect at all?